Jussie Smollett's character will not appear in the season's final 2 episodes. This as the actor denies allegations he staged a hate crime to boost his career and salary, we're told by the police.
So, Henry, there's more bad news for the Empire actor Jussie Smollett, who allegedly staged a racist and anti-gay attack on himself and then blamed it on Trump supporters. So we're now learning that his character has been cut from the 2 final episodes of Fox's upcoming season of Empire. And meantime, we're seeing that leftists are having kind of a hard time grappling with this whole idea of the alleged hate hoax. And I'm not going to lie, it is rather amusing to watch all of the mental gymnastics that's happening right now with some of the hosts and the pundits on the liberal networks. Like, they just can't handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's a little repulsive. I've been covering some of the late night host shows. I've watched Don Lemon basically give a rant, kind of pleading his innocence still after all of this has happened. He was arrested. Police gave it an extremely, extremely intense and heartfelt press conference yesterday about this. And you know, for someone to still think that, I know, you know, everyone's innocent until proven guilty, but the cops have a lot of evidence on this guy. And politicians, many 2020 candidates, still have their tweets up about Smollett where, you know, they were, you know, saying that he was 100%, he was 100% attacked. He should 100% be, this should be looked into, which it was. And it was a waste of money for police. We wasted thousands of dollars on this investigation, which now he's going to have to pay back.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people just dropped the word allegedly and alleged.
Right.
And so they just made it seem as if it were fact when, so these pundits and the hosts and stuff were just 100% in on Smollett because this confirmed their beliefs that they're always trying to push. This was the perfect narrative. This was an openly gay man, African American, and then he's attacked in the middle of the night by what he said were white men who said this is MAGA country. And so then we had the host coming out breathlessly saying, oh, like Brooke Baldwin from CNN, she says, oh, this is Trump's America. Right. Or no, she said, this is America in 2019, referencing Trump, of course. This is, you know, all because of Trump's rhetoric, which is inspiring all the crazies to come out. When if you actually looked at the facts in this case, and I never like to jump on anything like this immediately, especially because we've seen a lot of hate hoaxes over the years, especially since Trump took office. I think there's been over 24 hate hoax crimes committed, and it's kind of the same thing over and over again, but they're willing to jump on it because it fits a narrative, and then they kind of apologize for it later, but then it's just out of the news cycle. But a lot of people just remember the crime committed, and they think it were, you know, some sort of Trump supporter or racist, and again, this just really divides our country.
I agree, and, you know, I thought it was so interesting originally when I heard about this story. As a journalist, I think it is my job to be asking questions at all times. Now, when it comes to something like this, you got to be careful because, again, there's been a lot of hoax crimes that, you know, people have questioned and they were actually true. So you don't want to be the guy who's, you know, questioning this hoax crime. But at the same time, it was like the coldest day in Chicago. It was 3 a.m., 2 a.m. He just got a Subway, little tuna sub from Subway, and he's out there, and 2 random guys come out of nowhere in this nice part of Chicago and beat him up and say, this is MAGA country. I mean,
it's a little too convenient.
I've covered a lot of insane rallies and protests with some of these actual white supremacist people who you know, these people were trying to make them out to look like. None of those people say, like, MAGA country. They say really, really awful things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if they were beating this guy up, they wouldn't be screaming MAGA country. Come on. So that was the first thought. I didn't know there's a lot of people who were skeptical on it when it first came out, and I was one of them. But I think that's important to realize that this is still not over. It's still going to be a full investigation. But think about it. This guy it was negative 25 degrees, 2 a.m.
Exactly. And so when this first initially came out, when I heard about it, I was like, wow, that's horrible if it's true. I'd like to hear more facts. I wasn't tweeting about it. I wanted to learn more about it.
Right.
Again, there were red flags. And what we learned from the police department, I have a little list here so we don't miss anything. So first, apparently he waited like 30 minutes to reach out to police, and then they ended up going to his apartment and interviewing him there. He had the noose around his neck still, and he still had, I guess, like the chemical, which was gasoline. And then we found out that after police went through and looked at the security footage from the apartment building, I mean, he walked in, he didn't look distressed. He had his tuna sandwich in hand and his cell phone. And if we look at now the suspects, I guess, or the Nigerian brothers that admitted that he paid them to commit this, this crime against him, this hate crime. And so he had a cell phone and a tuna sandwich. Like, how do you fight off two people and still have an appetite? Don't lose your sandwich. Don't lose the cell phone. And also, police were saying that he didn't want to hand over his cell phone so that they could figure out everything that they needed to. They also couldn't find any sort of security cameras in the area to confirm his allegations and his claims. So there was just a lot going on, and still people in the media were going along with this. I don't know if there's anything else that stuck out to you. Obviously, we learned later other things that are pretty damning, such as the security footage from the gas station where the Nigerian brothers, who, by the way, worked with this Empire star, Jussie Smollett, and they were one had like a pretty big role. The other one was an actor. They were workout buddies. One of them allegedly sold drugs to Jussie Smollett. I guess he was looking for Molly.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, it's not looking. I mean, these are the text messages and things that we're finding out. Also, the brothers received $3,500
and a check. They wrote a check.
Yes, Smollett wrote a check.
Smollett wrote a check, dude. If you're going to pull off a crime. According to police, if you're going to pull off a crime, you're writing a check? How dumb can you be? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'm sorry. But no, so going back to it, a lot of these senators, congresswomen, people who are running for office in 2020 have come out with these statements. Some of them have left their tweets up. Kamala Harris being one of them, who came out with a statement recently. And she like did a half apology, or like a half, like, we should condemn this, but halfly so. And then blamed the rest, added like 3 paragraphs about how divided the country is because of Trump and all this other things in the same statement. I thought it was a little ridiculous, and it shows you where people are.
Yeah, but that's like pretty predictable of liberal politicians to pile on.
It's not right, though.
It's not right. They shouldn't. They should be definitely more careful when it comes to these things, especially because their reputation's on the line, and this is something that's been noted. But what I'm really concerned about would be the pundits and the hosts who are recklessly letting people throw around conspiracy theories on these networks. We're hearing people, there was one example on MSNBC where they were questioning the Chicago Police Department and then kind of suggesting that they're racist and maybe they're framing Jussie Smollett to make it look like he committed this hate crime against himself, which is pretty reckless because the Chicago Police Department has done a lot of work in this case. They deployed, I don't know how many investigators. Like, no one else in Chicago gets this type of treatment. I think it's a total insult.
I think so too. I remember hearing those allegations. I mean,
well, people are still saying
it. Starting off, and they keep saying it, which is sickening. After seeing the press conference yesterday with an African American police chief, heartfelt emotionally express his pain and sorrow for what's going on in their city, that they should be focused on gun violence and all these other things.
Yeah, let me jump in there for a second. Yeah. The Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson, he said they took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career. And I think that's exactly what happened. Carry on.
I think that's spot on, and this is exactly what I was referring to. In that press conference, him saying that, I think you could see the pain and how sad he was that his police department and everything, they wasted all their time and effort on this hoax, essentially, allegedly, and making it so that he realized, he's like, I'm an African American male, and he's like, this is absurd. He's like, this is ridiculous that someone would do this to portray an act of racism or an attack. He's like, think about all the other people who actually are being attacked and who actually have been attacked in hate crimes, and they should be focused on. So.
Yeah, that does, it absolutely 100% hurts the real victims of hate crimes more than anyone, because then people will start to question. And that's the same feeling that I had, is just after so many fake hate crimes that we've seen, that we've reported on, it is disturbing, and it's a trend. And you see that it's kind of a trend in 2019 to be a victim.
Yes.
I mean, so much so that someone allegedly paid someone to commit a hate crime against them. I mean, America is such a great country that people have to pay people, allegedly, to commit hate crimes against them.
It's that's so sad. It really is sad to say that. We're in a really bad place right now, but this is just showing how bad it is. And this is only going to continue, in my opinion, as 2020 ramps up. I think Democrats and people are so desperate that they're going to continue to do things like this unless justice is served. If Smollett does not get in trouble for this crime in the sense that he should be in trouble for, and actually do some time or whatever the judges agree to, I mean, that would be absurd and ridiculous. This man shouldn't just lose his job over this. He needs to actually face some criminal punishment.
Yeah. So, and then some of the other arguments in his favor would be that they feel bad for him, that he's mentally ill. He must have had some sort of trauma and had to deal with racism when he was younger. Maybe he did, but I still don't think that that should excuse what has allegedly happened here, which is he paid people to commit a hate crime against him.
He made a fake hate crime and he paid him with a check. And he beat himself up. He beat himself up, allegedly. He didn't even, supposedly these two guys didn't even beat him up. He beat himself up. They were self-inflicted wounds. So that he's like punching himself in the face.
Yeah, because we saw the initial picture that had him, with bruises and cuts on his face, and it looked pretty bad. And another important thing here is that people say, oh, well, never mind what Smollett may have done in this case. Doesn't really matter because at least we're talking about hate crimes. And then they'll say, oh, well, we've seen a spike in hate crimes since President Trump took office because of the rhetoric. But again, a lot of people don't want to talk about the numbers and how people are even compiling all of this information in numbers. So things that wouldn't have been considered a hate crime years ago, it would now be considered as a hate crime. The way that they're gathering this information is different. So I wouldn't say that there is solid proof to suggest that there have been more hate crimes since Trump's presidency. No. I think it's reckless. I don't think it's accurate. Hate crimes are horrible. No one wants that. Yeah. But to suggest that the president and his rhetoric is inspiring crazies to go out and commit more hate crimes, I think is really misleading. And I don't think that there are actual facts or claims to
There's no basis on that at all. No. There's zero evidence or basis to it's just it's cable news talking points, liberal talking points to bring down the president again. Why don't we focus on the real issue at hand, which is the actual incident, and not who's in office or any of that? Because that really is not important right now. It's important in the sense that that Smollett is accusing a certain group of people and an entire base and a president essentially of such reckless behavior, which, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen. Well,
and if you think about, had the Chicago Police Department not gathered all these facts, if there wasn't the surveillance camera footage that we've seen to substantiate and back the claims of the police department, what they're alleging, again, today people would be looking at Trump supporters wondering who did it, what red hat wearer did it. And we know that Smollett, he hates Trump. We've seen the tweets. Oh, yeah. He has total Trump derangement syndrome, and some people are saying that he maybe committed this crime against himself to get a pay raise on Empire, because $100,000 per episode wasn't enough. But I don't even think it was about the money necessarily. Maybe that would come, but I think he wanted to be seen as a hero and be more of a household name. I, to be honest, had no idea who he was, and I've never seen Empire before. But now I know who he is, and now I know what Empire is, and I think that was the whole thing. It wasn't really necessarily about a pay raise or being. There were suggestions that maybe he was going to be cut from Empire. Now he's been cut from Empire.
Yep, he's gone now. But no, I think that it originally just goes back to him and everything that he wanted to do. It's just like you yourself felt the need to set up a crime against yourself so that you could go on Good Morning America and cry about some crime that didn't happen, and now here you are.
Allegedly.
That allegedly did not
allegedly
happen.
Didn't happen.
I'm sorry, I have to keep saying that. I'm a good reporter over here, but still. The evidence is out there. It's alleged. It's innocent until proven guilty. But evidence is clear. And I will say Smollett needs to face some repercussion on this so that this will not happen in the future if this is true.
And I have just a couple final points. We also learned about his criminal history where he had a DUI and then he used somebody else's identity so he could avoid getting in trouble, but then he got in trouble for that. So he's known for lying to police officers.
Criminal history, right.
And just overall, I think that this says a lot about the media and just their handling of other situations. Like we saw the Covington high school teens, the MAGA teens, they were ready to jump on that that and accused all Trump supporters of being racist, and this is a product of Trump. They didn't care if they were ruining teens' lives. They didn't believe that the teenagers deserved due process. And also, if you look at and compare that to Kavanaugh and how his treatment from the media, he didn't deserve due process. But now all of a sudden, Smollett deserves due process. We're hearing from his attorneys that he deserves due process. So again, this just highlights the hypocrisy. Did you have a final thought?
Well, my hypocrisy comment just goes back to, let's remember what's going on in Virginia right now, people. There's still a governor who wore blackface. There's still a lieutenant governor who has 2 rape allegations against him, essentially. And let's focus on that. That's another issue that should be focused on, that the mainstream media is burying. I think that's more important than this, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. And you're right. I mean, people just kind of want to just look the other way on Virginia, just because they're Democrats and they don't want to throw their own under the bus here. But we have the blackface situation and the Me Too situation in Virginia that need to be looked at. And conveniently, Smollett is just totally taking over the news cycle. And I'm sure this will probably disappear out of the news pretty soon, too.
I assume so.
Unfortunately.